Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 9 June 2021. Those of you who are watching this video in a timely fashion may know we're just one day away from the 2021 Great Eastern Cutlery Rendezvous, this year held 2 months earlier than its normal August date. Not sure why Mr. Howard did that. Perhaps to save everybody from the traffic of the Titusville Oil Festival. Maybe hoping for a little bit better weather, or maybe because, gosh darn it, we didn't have a real rendezvous last year, and rather than wait 24 months since the last one, maybe 22 is better. But anyway, it is this week. In honor of the 2021 rendezvous, I thought Rob, yours truly, should do a good old-fashioned knife review of a Great Eastern Cutlery pocket knife the week of the rendezvous. So here we are with a 2021 release. What on earth could this be? It says Northfield Unexcelled English Whittler. Model number 380321 in burnt orange jig bone. Wait a minute, this cannot be. It says it's a Whittler. It says it has 3 blades and the pattern is the 38. This cannot be what the tube says it is. Why do I know that? Well, here's why. This is the Great Eastern Cutlery number 38 Grinling Whittler, produced in 2015. This is a Titty version with the hot dog shield and Gabon ebony covers. I raved about this knife. I have owned 2 of them, this being one. I was just enamored with the history of the split back Whittler, and I was amazed at the engineering and the execution that goes into making one of these correctly. If you notice, the knife just isn't parallel with itself in any way. You have 2 springs, one driving each one of the secondary blades down the middle, and it's hard to see because this is all steel, but there is a tapered wedge. Look at the thickness of the center liner here, and look at the absence of a center liner on the main blade pivot. If you look closely, that center wedge terminates to nothing, or virtually nothing, right above my thumb. Then there's a little gap as those 2 springs come together. So the entire knife is made on a taper, drilling straight holes through the side components, the bolsters and the liners. How are you going to get that done when the knife is in pieces and then it goes together at angles? But wait, there's more. Look at the length of the main blade. It extends past the blade tangs of the 2 secondaries, and look at that gap it has to sit in, and it's perfectly centered, by the way. How do you do that without crashing blades into each other, either during assembly or in use by the owner? I mean, it was an engineering feat, and I've talked with Bill Howard about this knife extensively in the 5 or 6 years that have followed, and every year I talk to him about making another run of these. Every year he says, "We'll never make that knife again." Why, Bill? Was it difficult? "We'll never make that knife again." Was there a lot of scrap and rework? "Stop, Rob. We'll never make that knife again." I beg him. He says, "No, we'll never make that knife again." Now, there was another 38 in 2017, and this, I think, is actually a 2018 rendezvous knife. This is the LVS Abalone 38 Special. So same 38 handle, but just one single modified muskrat clip. It's sort of a humpback muskrat clip. But you can see single blade. None of those issues. Everything is parallel with just one flat ground back spring. Okay. So what on earth could this be? This is the knife that came out of this tube. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It is, in fact, a number 38 split back Whittler. It does, in fact, have 3 blades. And I think what Bill did to ease his stress level is this. Notice how that clip point blade proceeded clear past the backs of the tangs and had to be absolutely perfect in that tiny gap. Well, what he's done with this English Whittler is he's given us a Wharncliffe main that actually ends before the full tang thickness begins. So they're a little more forgiving for blade centering, right? But man, did they do this knife well. And let's just look. I'll show you the difference in the blade lengths open. The knife closed is 3 7/8 inches. The length of the main blade on the 2015 Grinling Whittler is 2 7/8. Just 2 3/8 on this Wharncliffe for the English Whittler. So they gave him a little bit of breathing room so he didn't commit murder or have a stroke while they were running these. So let's look at the rest of the knife. So yeah, we've got some nice fat over 1/8 inch stock, I think, running off those 2 converging back springs. It gives us a very stout action or walk and talk. Pull on that main blade about a 7.5. And interesting because this main blade is a cam tang, meaning there's no half stop. It's just graduated pressure. So it's light, it gets heavy, and then it snaps open. And perhaps the best cam tang walk I've ever felt on a Great Eastern Cutlery knife. Very smooth and great snap. And then the secondary blades, one of which is a pen, and one of which is a coping blade. Those are both on half stops. And by the way, those also have hidden kicks. And what I mean by that, if we look at this main blade, this portion of the blade right here is what rests on the back spring when the knife is closed, and it determines its protrusion in this direction is what determines how deeply the blade sets in the blade well when it's closed. The secondaries, to make them elegant and sweet, have hidden kicks. So the kick is right up against the bolster. Makes them very fun to grind, by the way, for adjustment. So, and those secondaries are just butter. Beautiful, beautiful walk and talk on both of them. Those are about a 5.5 pull. Just nice, elegant snap. Let's take a look at these bolsters for a second. They are rat tail bolsters, and I've really got to hand it to not only the engineering department, aka Randy Bell, but also to the production staff. One way to bail out and make it easy to run a rat tail bolster is to move the rat tail away from that back edge of the bolster to give yourself a little margin for error. But look how close. Look how close it is, and the top of that groove at the back of the bolster is just dead on straight on both sides. And you might think with kind of a wire edge coming up there, it'd be hard to haft and make the transition from cover to bolster smooth, but man, did they nail it. I mean, they just nailed it. The hafting on these knives is unbelievable. Let's talk about the jigging just a moment. Now this is kind of a coarse peach seed, I would call it. And one complaint I think GEC owners have had on some of the peach seed knives is they're kind of jagged, they're rough. They'll catch pocket lint on little slivers. And it's almost like, I don't want to invoke the enemy, but they almost did kind of a pocket-worn peach seed. Now, that's a case term, I know, but looks like they hit these with a buffer after jigging, because the jigging is still beautifully defined, and to the eye looks really gorgeous, but it's totally smooth to the touch. I don't mean smooth like that. I mean smooth, not snaggy. Right? Great job. One characteristic of the knife that raised some eyebrows and maybe drew some scowls was that shield, which is kind of nondescript, kind of a federal shield without points, I guess. And everybody went, "What the heck? It looks like a slug for a pop machine or something." That is actually an old shield pattern, and it's English. Thus the English Whittler designation. And a theme that's carried on to the blade etch, if you look at the font for unXL'd, etched into the main blade, kind of an older, archaic English font, right? And another thing, guys, that I noticed, I checked this before I fired up the camera. If you hold a slip joint pocket knife up to the light with the light source behind it and you look through the blade well, that's how you sort of check for light penetration, misalignment, or springs and liners that are out of flat. The only place light shone through this was at the termination of that wedge, that split back wedge spacer. No light anywhere else coming through that knife. Man, I tell you what. I have said for a long time, Great Eastern Cutlery is the best in the world at what they do. There's not even a discussion. And as of 2021, it's still true. I said this knife in 2015 was Bill Howard showing the world what greatness looks like. It was his doctoral thesis. It was his opus. It was his symphony. And part deux is as good as the original. Different, and in some ways maybe better. In some ways, a little more conservative effort, right? But man, did they kill it. Golly. I will have this in my pocket as I head to Pennsylvania tomorrow. Kind of my pride and joy. Oh, by the way, I guess, it is a knife, right? So one of the things I've always said about Great Eastern versus other companies who make similar knives is they grind thinly, they grind consistently, they get to a dimension behind the edge that doesn't require a lot of acuteness in your sharpened bevel angle to be able to slice well. I know this is a Whittler, so really it's designed for cutting wood, but let's just see if it got a little slicey. It does have my edge on it, you might have noticed. So, wow, you kind of have to get the cutting edge and not the ricasso. There we go. I'm rusty on these from the sharpening bench videos, guys. Rusty. Speaking of whittling, And this pattern. There's a reason for the oddly shaped handle. If you think about how each of these blades is going to be presented into wood for whittling or carving, you've got this large rounded end that provides lots of gripping positions for the main blade. So you got a big handle with the big blade that affords a great saber grip, a great draw cut grip, a great pinch grip, even that sort of that potato peeling grip. It's just, everything feels in such great control. Yeah, it just feels great. And then when you come to these small blades, where detail work is going to be done, you've got a smaller dimension for your fingers that's going to allow you to get into intricate places a little better. And even with that main blade closed, it lets you secure the knife so it won't twist in your hand, right? With these three fingers, and then get precise control with a light touch with your index finger and thumb. Because a lot of times your cutting motion with the coping blade is going to be kind of a scooping or scooping away motion, and having the knife not want to twist in your hand is so important because you're twisting the blade. And if you're trying to twist the blade and the knife is spinning in your hand, it's not going to work real well. So this handle and blade set configuration, was devised, 150 years ago to be able to whittle with. And it still works, and it works very well. A great design also for the farmer jack, or the budding and pruning knife, that was released as a sister knife to this one back in 2015. If you want to know the history of the farmer jack, talk to Lyle Fry. I just thought you guys would want to see this on Rendezvous Week. And I'm happy to report, you can't really find a problem with it. I know that the running Great Eastern Cutlery in the last 15 months has not been a picnic. Getting people to come to work and have them trained up and able to produce work this good has not been easy for Bill and William to do. But man, are they pulling it off. Man, are they pulling it off. Great job, guys. I will see you tomorrow. That's all for this one. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp. Talk to you soon.